Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Moses Nagamutu, First Vice President and Prime Minister, Honorable Bar Jagdeo, Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Dr. Barton Scotland, Speaker of the National Assembly, members of the government, members of the National Assembly, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor, in the exercise of my privilege enshrined in the Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, as stated by the Speaker, to address you today as I have done at the commencement of every new session of the National Assembly. The Constitution at Article 67 states the President may at any time attend and address the National Assembly. I do so today. Presidential addresses are not ceremonial events. They report on the state of the nation and the intentions of the government. They attest to the recognition of this Assembly as a supreme organ of democratic power. Presidential addresses promote understanding between the executive and legislative branches by enunciating government's strategic vision, prioritizing policies, and explaining the main elements of the legislative agenda. They provide opportunities also to report to the Assembly and the nation on matters of national importance. I restate my government's vision for Guyana's development and the means through which we shall achieve our objective. The state's principal objective is to secure the good life for all. The good life entails providing every citizen with opportunities to be the best that they can be. The good life is about securing sustained economic prosperity, ensuring citizens access to quality public services, and promoting social cohesion. The good life involves eliminating extreme poverty and removing social, ethnic, and geographic inequalities. The ultimate indicators of the good life are happy communities, happy households, and happy people. Your government has chosen a green pathway to guide it towards achieving a good life. The economy for too long has been dependent on the production and export of primary commodities, all of which are vulnerable to exogenous market shocks and natural hazards. A green pathway allows us to benefit from our country's abundant natural resources. A green development trajectory will ensure a diversified, resilient economy, promote sustainable development, social cohesion, and good governance, and protect the environment while generating wealth and employment. The Green State Development Strategy is our roadmap for the transition towards the good life. The strategy is being crystallized and will be tabled and debated in this National Assembly. The provision of social services, education, health, housing, sanitation, and water is key to ensuring happy households and happy communities. Your government, in pursuit of the good life, will continue to eliminate the endemic problems within these sectors. We inherited in May 2015 a crisis in the public primary and secondary education system, with over half of the students failing the national grade 6 examinations. Your government is creating a 21st century nation. Our educational policy aims at providing students with the knowledge, skills, and values to become productive citizens in the economy of the future. Your government has prioritized educational access, attendance, and achievement. The Public Education Transport Service, popularly known as the 3Bs Initiative, was born out of the recognition that many parents found it costly to send their children to school. The service has distributed 1,254 bicycles, 28 buses, and 9 boats. The service is saving parents money, and more important, it is getting our children to school without expending a dollar from the government coffers. We are taking steps to improve the performance of all learners. A menu of measures to enhance the quality of education is being implemented. Some of these measures that have yielded the most success, especially at the primary level, include teacher training, the provision of resources, and targeted interventions. Over 3,500 primary school teachers have been equipped with the necessary pedagogical skills for quality delivery of the curriculum. The Ministry of Education, recognizing that the use of resources is integral to enhancing achievement of learners, has procured resources for all primary schools. These resources include textbooks, musical instruments, microscience kits, and toolkits for mathematics, literacy, and social studies. Targeted interventions, especially in numeracy and literacy, have resulted in improved performance in the National Grade 6 assessment. The percentage passes in English moved from 42% in 2016 to 60% in 2018. Mathematics moved from 14% in 2016 to 38% in 2018, and science from 28% to 46%. Mr. Speaker, Guyana's public health system in the past was plagued by inadequate infrastructure, high maternal mortality rates, weak disease prevention measures, poor emergency health response, and constraints to access to health services, particularly for hinterland residents. Your government has continued over the past year to address these deficiencies. Health infrastructure is being improved. A river ambulance was provided recently for Oriala village to transport and provide medical interventions for pregnant mothers and other emergency cases en route to the nearest health facility. Access to public health is being improved. Maternity waiting homes have been commissioned to make accommodation for high-risk pregnant mothers, particularly those from the hinterland regions. We'll upgrade next year the maternity unit of the New Amsterdam Hospital in order to improve maternal services further. The Ministry of Public Health is in the process of mapping the proximity of health facilities to communities to ensure that, as far as possible, a health facility is located within 5 kilometers of every community. Plans are on stream to upgrade health centers to polyclinics, especially in large catchment areas. Preventive treatment will be intensified. A program for the screening and treatment of eye diseases in children and providing them with low-cost spectacles is one of the many interventions that will be undertaken. The 2018 work program for sanitation management includes the promotion of effective management of solid waste across communities. The Higgs Bosch Sanitary Landfill site has been upgraded to include leachate treatment facility. The access road at Rose Hall to the landfill facility is 40% completed. Designs for sanitary landfill sites in Bartica, Lethem, and Madhya will be completed in November this year. We propose in 2019 to develop a landfill facility at Bellevue in East Berbice County to allow for the closure of the Esplanade dump site in the same year. Mr. Speaker, many new housing areas will be bedeviled by low levels of occupancy and abysmal infrastructure. Poor solid waste management created insanitary conditions. Our government will continue to expand access to housing and improve infrastructure within housing areas. The Housing Solutions model has seen the commencement over the past year of 250 housing units, of which 163 were completed. Development works have been carried out in both new and existing housing areas, including in Amelia's Ward, Farm, Herstelling, number 76 Village, Perseverance, Zeeburg, and Zeeland. Roads have been improved in Perseverance, La Parfaite Harmony, Westminster, and Amelia's Ward. Electrification services were expanded to Zeeland, Covent Garden, Peters Hall, Barnwell, Eccles, and Hope. A spatial development plan has been completed for Sophia, and similar ones will be undertaken for Bartica, Letham, Mabaruma, and for the lower East Bank Demerara. The Ministry of Communities proposes to undertake infrastructure works in 2019 in 9 new housing areas, the upgrading of 3 recreational areas, the consolidation of 18 existing areas, the installation of electricity in 8 communities, and the completion of 450 housing units. It will offer full house subsidies in the Upper Takatu, Upper Essequibo region. Mr. Speaker, your government's program in the water sector for 2018 was aimed at increasing access to safe water and reducing the disparity in service between the coastland and the hinterland. An estimated 7,903 households with more than 31,600 persons have benefited from access to potable water for the first time. Work is being advanced on the construction of 3 new water treatment plants at Iflat, Diamond, and Shitanka to provide improved access to potable water for more than 50,000 persons, a project that will be completed in 2019. A cooperation agreement with the Federated Republic of Brazil is witnessing the installation of 8 new wells to provide potable water to more than 4,800 persons in 8 indigenous communities in Shea, Mororinau, Awariwanau, Baishandrun, Achiwib, Crowdenau, Aishalton, and Chirkanau. The Ministry of Natural Resources, in collaboration with the residents of Napi, Haiwa, Parishara, and other villages in Rupununi, and a local contractor, constructed one of the first water catchment areas planned for that region. The catchment area is approximately 3 kilometers in length, and the dam is 800 meters and is estimated to hold approximately 3 million cubic meters of water at full capacity. The water catchment area will serve as a model to demonstrate how employing long-term solutions to water management can help communities to become more resilient to the effects of prolonged droughts and El Niño spells and climate change. Mr. Speaker, your government will continue to bring relief to senior citizens. It has already increased monthly old age pensions by 48.6%, from $13,125 to $19,500. It has also increased public assistance by 35.5%, from $5,900 to $8,000. 114 persons with disabilities are currently being trained in computer and other skills. The Central Recruitment and Management Agency, since January 2017, has found jobs for a total of 1,869 job seekers. The Ministry of Social Protection in 2019 will place emphasis on enhancing youth employment, the development of a national sexual harassment policy, reducing violence in schools, and promoting welfare for the aged. Mr. Speaker, economic growth is necessary to sustain and improve the delivery of social services. Budget 2019, which will be tabled in the National Assembly next month, is expected to be based on the theme of transformation for sustainable development and green growth towards achieving the good life. This budget will be presented in a less than favorable international economic environment. Global economic growth has been revised downwards due largely to the negative impact of trade tensions and higher oil prices. Guyana's economy has not been immune to these exogenous influences. The threat of sanctions against Rusal, a major multinational in Guyana, has created uncertainty in the bauxite sector. The spike in oil prices has impacted adversely on the production costs and on output in key sectors of our economy. The economy, despite these risks, but thanks to government's prudent management, is expected to enjoy moderate growth this year. Your government will continue to place emphasis on building greater economic resilience through economic diversification, strengthening the traditional sectors, and by catalyzing and building capacity in new and emerging sectors, such as agro-processing, information communications technology, and ecotourism. Visitor arrivals this year, as of August, showed a 15.23% increase over the corresponding period for 2017, adding an estimated $94 million to our economy for the first 8 months of this year. Agriculture is still a mainstay of our economy, constituting 16.6% of our GDP in 2017. It is the largest employer, accounting for 17.8% of our labor force. Your government will continue to build a more resilient agricultural sector through various measures, including improved drainage and irrigation, the introduction of high-yield crop varieties, and encouraging integrated pest management. We intend to reduce crop losses and damage due to flooding by increasing the coastlands drainage coefficient from 1.5 inches to 3.5 inches per 24-hour period within the next 3 years. The Ministry of Agriculture this year installed drainage pumps at 3 Friends, Buxton, Lusignan, Enmore, and Friendship Vigilance. New pumping stations will be established at Hampton Court, Devonshire Castle, Den Amstel, Hope, Newtonsville, Mora Point, Trafalgar, and Rose Hall Town in 2019, serving an additional 50,000 acres of land. The Guyana Rice Board this year released 50 new high-yielding varieties of rice with the potential of yielding an average of between 7 to 8.5 metric tons of rice per hectare, or 45 to 55 bags per acre. New high-yielding, salt-tolerant, and aromatic rice lines will be released in 2019. Your government, through agro-processing, is promoting increased agricultural output, reducing crop losses, stimulating village enterprises, economies, and generating employment. The regional agricultural and commercial exhibitions demonstrate the positive impact of this policy. Exhibitions showcase the industry of hundreds of small agro-processors and farmers engaged in producing and packaging a wide variety of products, including cashew nuts, kazarip, cassava bread and flours, cereals, chocolate sticks, coconut water, coconut oil, coffee, condiments, confectionery, copra, crab oil, dried peppers, essence, farine, fruit juices, honey, jams, jellies, pickles, peanut butter, and many other goods. Your government inherited a sugar industry which was in dangerous decline. Unsustainable and prohibitive production costs, declining production, and unsound investments had placed the industry in a perilous state. Your government recognizes the importance of the sugar industry. We are restructuring the industry. The measures which have been taken, including estate consolidation and workforce downsizing, were necessary to save the industry. We want to see a sustainable and viable sugar industry, one that will contribute to national development and to the workers' well-being. The Guyana Sugar Corporation has installed a board which met representatives of the National Industrial and Commercial Investments Limited. A plan is being developed between them to boost production in the remaining East Babis, West Babis, and West Demerara estates. We have begun to provide training to sugar workers to become self-employed in various fields. Sugar workers have not been abandoned to an uncertain future. The divestment of some of the sugar estates, which is expected to occur as early as the first half of 2019, will see some of the displaced workers being afforded the opportunity to regain employment. We will continue to work diligently to ensure that displaced workers are provided with opportunities to participate actively in other sectors of the economy, such as the production and processing of rice and other crops, livestock, fisheries, construction, manufacturing, services, and mining. Mr. Speaker, youth unemployment, when my government assumed office, was pervasive and persistent. A Caribbean Development Bank study dated May 2015 and entitled Youth Are the Future, the Implications of Youth Employment for Sustainable Employment in the Caribbean, estimated Guyana's youth unemployment rate at 40%. A recent labor force survey found that 35.2% of our young people aged between 15 and 24 years were not in education, not in employment, and not in training. Mr. Speaker, your government has launched a number of initiatives aimed at stimulating employment, including youth employment, through the promotion of entrepreneurship, self-employment, and skills training. The Hinterland Employment Youth Service provides Indigenous youth with opportunities to acquire income-earning skills. A total of 3,941 youths between the ages of 18 and 35 benefit from this program, which has created 2,051 businesses over the past 2 years. Your government has provided community skills training in clerical installation, food preparation, information technology, leathercraft, plumbing, poultry rearing, and other skills to our youth. The Youth Entrepreneurial Skills Training Program, since September 2017, has trained an additional 721 youths attached to the Sophia Training Center, the Kurukuru Training Center, and the Vrymans Irving Training Center. These programs complement the other technical and vocational training programs being provided by government, and which have also benefited young persons. Mr. Speaker, small and medium-scale enterprises are the key to sustaining growth and generating employment, particularly for young people. Your government will continue to promote initiatives aimed at strengthening the SME sector in order to stimulate entrepreneurship and promote job creation. Your government will continue to remove constraints to SME development and, in particular, access to government procurement, access to finance, and access to business registration. We will activate the 20% minimum quota for small businesses within public procurement. Cabinet has approved the Small Business Procurement Program, which will see mandatory set-asides for approved small businesses and set-asides for subcontracting. All government agencies are expected to participate in the program. Your government is proud of its efforts in providing access to finance for small businesses. The Small Business Bureau has granted 45 loans valued at US $618,000 and given out 158 grants valued at US $237,000, through which more than 500 new jobs were expected to be created. The Linden Enterprise Network, the Micro and Small Enterprise Development Project, and the Hinterland Employment Youth Service have together provided $1.2 billion in grants and loans to more than 3,000 entrepreneurs, including first-time business startups. The Sustainable Livelihoods Program and Entrepreneurial Development, SLED, initiative is helping to support sustainable economic ventures which boost household incomes, especially for women. The initiative has funded 49 projects valued at $230 million and has benefited 530 households. The Women of Worth and the People of Worth Entrepreneurial Resources Initiative have disbursed $8.8 million Guyana dollars in loans to single women, single males, and couples to engage in economic ventures. The Ministry of Business in 2018 established 3 additional business registration hubs at Lethem, Madi, and Rose Hall Town. These hubs allow businesses in remote areas to be registered without the principals having to travel to some distant administrative center. 7 small business enterprises help desks were set up in 6 regions across Guyana. The Hinterland Employment Youth Service program will continue in 2019. The program provides indigenous youths with opportunities to acquire income-earning skills. A total of 3,941 youths between the ages of 18 and 35 from 215 indigenous communities and villages have benefited from this program over the past 2 years. Your government, Mr. Speaker, your government will continue to attract and facilitate increased investment in trade. The Guyana Office for Investment in the first half of 2018 facilitated 57 projects with a proposed investment value of $10.4 billion, which are expected to create 696 jobs. The Guyana Trade and Investment Exhibition, held only last month, which saw the participation of 113 buyers and 56 exhibitors, provided a platform for local export-ready firms to engage international buyers. Mr. Speaker, your government is developing the capability to effectively manage the oil and gas sector. We established on the 1st of August 2018 a Department of Energy to ensure that a sound organizational, administrative, legislative, and regulatory framework would be put in place for the management of the sector in accordance with international best practices. The department, whose remit includes renewable energy, has commenced its work. Oil production is expected to begin in 2020 and will be the most transformative economic development in our recent history. Your government is taking steps to ensure that the revenues which accrue from this sector will not be squandered, but instead will be invested strategically in building human and institutional capacity, addressing our infrastructural deficit, and providing economic security for future generations. Your government is committed to transparency in the management of this sector. We have always made public the petroleum contracts signed between investors and the government of Guyana. Work is continuing. Work is continuing also on the Petroleum Commission Bill, which has been redrafted and forwarded to the Department of Energy for review. Other legislation which the Department of Energy is reviewing includes amendments to the Petroleum Exploration and Production Act and regulations. Your government will ensure that oil revenues are prudently managed for the present and future generations in accordance with our objective of securing the good life for all. We shall do this through a natural resource fund, which will be established before first oil in 2020. Priority will be given to investments in human capital, particularly our public education system and key catalytic infrastructure projects that improve productivity and bridge the divide between the coastland and hinterland. We laid a green paper on the Natural Resources Fund before the Assembly in August. This action was consistent with our conviction that the people should fully understand the implications of the fund and that they would be involved in the discussions concerning its establishment and management. The legislation, as it stands, meets 21 of the 24 Santiago principles, with the other 3 principles being met once the legislation comes into force. It is being reviewed by Cabinet, and the revised legislation will be laid in the National Assembly next month. This legislation is comprehensive and will ensure that revenues from petroleum are managed in a transparent and accountable manner. We have already begun to build capacity of key agencies concerned with the management of the Natural Resources Fund, and have developed an implementation plan to ensure that the fund is fully operational in 2019 prior to first oil. Mr. Speaker, members of the National Assembly, the mining sector is being aligned to the objectives of Guyana's Green State Development Strategy. A 10-year strategic plan for the sustainable development of mineral resources of Guyana is being drafted and is expected to lead to a national minerals sector policy framework and a national mineral sector action plan. Your government is also improving forestry management. A new code of practice and forestry regulations were introduced in the National Assembly in May this year and have enhanced governance architecture of the forestry sector. They have allowed Guyana to move closer towards a voluntary partnership agreement with the European Union under the Forest Law Enforcement Governance and Trade Program. A national log export policy has been drafted and approved by Cabinet. Implementation is envisaged for 2019 after review and sector sensitization. Your government took steps to protect the local timber industry. The new import requirements for the importation of pine lumber have led to a 78.4% reduction in pine lumber imports and have increased opportunities for local sawmills and loggers. Members of the National Assembly, the Constitution of Guyana is supreme. Your government has re-established and made appointments to institutions decreed by the Constitution. The Ombudsman, Police Complaints Authority, Chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission, the Public Service Appellate Tribunal, and the Police, Public and Teaching Service Commissions have been appointed. Your government is empowering indigenous people to better manage their communities. Village council elections were held in 116 villages, 46 satellites, and 47 community development councils. Tushos from all 215 villages, communities, and satellites and councils attended the 12th conference of the National Tushos Conference in July 2018. It was at the 10th conference of the NTC in 2016 that I made a call for the development of village improvement plans, which would create a roadmap for improving the delivery of public services in indigenous communities. I am happy to note that 57 villages from the Upper Takatu, Upper Essequibo region have completed their plans. Presidential grants have been used to strengthen indigenous village economies and finance community projects, including rearing cattle and small ruminants, furniture manufacturing, and sawmilling. Your government is expanding ICT access across the country. The National Data Management Authority currently provides internet connectivity for 175 primary schools, 108 secondary schools, and 34 tertiary, technical, and vocational institutions. The digital divide is being closed. Free internet access is being provided to more than 11,000 users in remote, underdeveloped, and hinterland communities through 130 ICT hubs and 79 public internet access points. 116 government agencies and ministries have been connected to the e-government network. The Ministry of Public Telecommunications next year will implement a US $37.6 million national broadband project, which will see improvements and additions to online government services, including admissions to nursery and primary schools, old age pensions, and public assistance, and applications for birth and death certificates. An additional 20 hinterland communities also will be connected to the internet. Mr. Speaker, members of the National Assembly, your government has established a constellation of public broadcasting services at Aishalton, Bartica, Lethem, Madia, Mabaruma, and Oriala, which, along with Radio Piomac, is according citizens the right to information and the right to be heard. Public broadcasting services can be used to provide critical information, including warnings and alerts of the threat or the occurrence of natural disasters or emergencies. Public broadcasting services can be used to summon help and relief. They can be utilized to provide advisories which can save lives and protect citizens from harm. Mr. Speaker, members of the National Assembly, your government is proud to have restored local democracy on the 18th of March 2016 after a 22-year hiatus. These historic local government elections have created a democratic dividend. Municipalities, including newly created towns, Bartica, Lethem, Mabaruma, and next in line Madia, and neighborhood democratic councils are being energized and revitalized. Residents are taking a greater interest in the well-being and development of their communities. The Ministry of Communities is supporting the work of local democratic organs. The 2018 subvention program is fully disbursed in accordance with the Fiscal Transfers Act. The local democratic organs are focused on completing their respective programs by year's end 2018. Local democracy is a means of citizens' empowerment. Your government will ensure that respect is paid to local democratic organs and that we will strengthen their capacity to deliver effective and efficient public services. The first National Conference of Local Democratic Organs, held in June 2018, was aimed at fostering cooperation and collaboration between and among local democratic organs and with regional administrations and the central government. Government has signed a $26.2 million contract to execute a pilot project in New Amsterdam for the modernization of its property assessment and valuation system. This is the first part of a national assessment that will enhance the valuation division's capacity to provide more effective valuation services to local democratic organs. Local government elections will be held next month as due under the Constitution and will incorporate 1 new municipality and 8 new neighborhood democratic councils for the first time. Mr. Speaker, members of the National Assembly, the security of our citizens is paramount. Your government is reforming the security sector to ensure safer communities and to protect investments. We do not underestimate the seriousness of the public security challenges which we face, but equally, no one should underrate our resolve to make our country safer. The security sector has not fully recovered from the damage done during the period which I refer to as the Troubles. Your government is committed through security sector reform to restore integrity to the police force. Security sector reform, with the support of the United Kingdom, has started. A new force directorate, established in accordance with the Constitution, is in place. A new commissioner of police with 4 deputy commissioners have been appointed. Police administration is being decentralized with the alignment of divisional boundaries to regional boundaries. The commissioner and his team will be given the support to correct the abuses which have hitherto afflicted the force. We have committed thus far close to $1.7 billion for the construction, refurbishment, and renovation of police stations in order to provide a comfortable working environment for policemen and policewomen, to improve services to citizens, and to increase crime prevention capabilities. The force is being retooled with equipment and vehicles, some of which are being provided by friendly governments, such as the People's Republic of China. Security sector reform extends to the management of our prisons. Our prison system has become unstable because of past failures to implement security security sector reforms in a timely and comprehensive manner. Your government is transforming the prison system from being primarily a penal institution to one that is correctional in character. We will promote successful offender reintegration in society and rebuild public trust in the Guyana prison service. Work will continue in 2019 to improve prison management. The expansion of the Mazruni prison and the reconstruction of the Georgetown prison will reduce overcrowding and improve safety. Your government will continue to ensure security and safety on both land and sea. We will launch a commission of inquiry into the tragic incidents which occurred in Surinamese waters during the period 27-28 April, and again on 3rd of May 2018, when our fisherfolk were attacked and some of them murdered. Mr. Speaker, members of the National Assembly, your government is relieving citizens who live outside of Georgetown of the frustration and high costs associated with obtaining passports. The service of the Central Passport Office in Georgetown is now more people-friendly and efficient. The Department of Citizenship is decentralizing the service in order to make it more accessible to persons residing outside of the city of Georgetown. Passport offices have been established at New Amsterdam and Linden, and in coming years we will establish additional offices at Guyana, Bartica, and Lethem. The Department of Citizenship also has been involved in addressing the influx of migrants from the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. The crisis in that country has created challenges for our small state and has led to an estimated 2,500 Venezuelan migrants seeking refuge, mainly in our frontier communities. Your government will provide, within its means, humanitarian assistance, including food and medical treatment, and temporary settlement to these migrants. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs collaborated with the Department of Citizenship and the Ministry of Public Security on the development of new procedures whereby Venezuelan migrants, including undocumented migrants entering Guyana, would be registered and issued with a 3-month permit of stay, which could be further extended. Mr. Speaker, members of the National Assembly, your government has a packed legislative agenda to bring before the National Assembly in 2019. It is beyond the scope of this address to describe fully the legislation likely to be tabled, but I would just like to highlight a few. The Public Debt Management Bill, addressing reforms of our procurement system, as well as for improved expenditure, planning, management, and execution of the public sector investment program, will be introduced to ensure improvements in Guyana's financial management. The Natural Resource Fund Bill will be introduced. The bill will place the administration of the fund under the Bank of Guyana and will require parliamentary approval for withdrawals. The Mining Act and its regulations are being comprehensively overhauled to ensure that mining is better regulated to ensure safety, efficiency, and environmental sustainability. The Mining Amendment Bill and its companion regulations will be introduced in the National Assembly in the first quarter of 2019. Amendments will also be tabled in respect of the Guyana Gold Board Act and its regulations. New regulations to reduce the use of mercury in the mining sector and to ensure better environmental practices on land and water resources will be introduced in 2019. The Judicial Review Bill aims at providing the courts with gatekeeping functions to distinguish between the frivolous and vexatious applications. An Intellectual Property Rights Bill will be brought before the House to upgrade Guyana's intellectual property rights legislation. The Integrity Commission's Amendment Bill will amend the schedule of declarants so as to more accurately reflect today's range of senior public officers. Mr. Speaker, members of the National Assembly, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been in the forefront of efforts to protect our national patrimony, to secure our vital interests, and to promote international economic cooperation. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, on the 30th of January 2018, informed the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela that since significant progress had not been made towards arriving at a full agreement for the solution of the controversy between the two states, he had chosen the International Court of Justice as the means that is now to be used for its solution. The decision was in accordance with the view of Guyana that a judicial settlement was the best means of achieving a final and definitive settlement of the long-standing controversy. Guyana, in accordance with this decision, filed its application with the International Court of Justice on the 29th of March this year, requesting the court to adjudge and declare on several issues, the foremost being that the 1899 arbitral award is valid, binding upon both Guyana and Venezuela. The President of the International Court of Justice convened a meeting with Guyana and Venezuela on the 18th of June 2018 for the purpose of ascertaining the views of the parties with regard to questions of procedure in the case. Venezuela, in response, issued a communique which indicated that it would not participate in the case, alleging that the court did not have jurisdiction. Guyana, therefore, is in the process of preparing its memorial on jurisdiction to the court to be submitted on the 19th of November this year. The court has established the 18th of April 2019 for the submission of the counter memorial by Venezuela. Guyana, in the meantime, continues to sensitize the international community about the Secretary General's decision and actions taken thus far by the ICJ. And Guyana, in so doing, has obtained the support for the judicial process from several international organizations. Mr. Speaker, your government, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has signed international cooperation agreements with a number of countries, including the People's Republic of China, Japan, the Republic of India, the Republic of Korea, the Republic of Turkey. Guyana this year joined the International Solar Alliance. Your government, as you're aware, signed a memorandum of understanding between the government of the People's Republic of China and the government of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana on cooperation within the framework of the Silk Road Economic Belt and the 21st Century Maritime Silk Road Initiative. A paved road link between Linden and Lethem is under active consideration as part of that initiative. Guyana, under the single market economy, is forging closer ties and cementing stronger economic cooperation with Barbados and Republic of Trinidad and the other states of the Caribbean. I attended the 9th meeting of the Prime Ministerial Subcommittee of the Caribbean Single Market and Economy in Bridgetown, Barbados in September, and later held important discussions with Prime Minister Mia Mottley. Prime Minister Keith Rowley of Trinidad and Tobago also came to Georgetown in the same month, and together we signed a memorandum of understanding for cooperation in energy, and we discussed wide-ranging areas of possible cooperation. Mr. Speaker, members of the National Assembly, a great deal of work lies ahead of this House in this session. You can rest assured that your government will support the Assembly in providing oversight over the work of the Executive and in the debate and passage of key pieces of legislation for 2019. Guyanese could expect confidently that by the end of 2019, they would be able to live in a state with more secure borders, in communities that are safer, in an economy that is more resilient, in a society that is more cohesive, with public services that are more accessible, and constitutional agencies and institutions which enjoy the confidence and respect of the public. This is the type of country which will provide Guyanese with a good life. This is the society. This is the society at which we aim. This is the future which we seek. I thank you.